Vladimir CH. We just watched your meeting on rare earth metals, sorry, but I think that now all the journalists in the world are interested in rare earth metals, but in a slightly different aspect. Because the United States, I will say this very softly, is urgently asking Zelensky to sign an agreement with them regarding these resources in payment for aid to Ukraine from the previous Biden administration. How do you assess the prospect of this? This does not concern us in any way. I do not assess it, and do not even want to think about this topic, of course. We should assess these resources. How real are they? How many of these resources are there? How much do they cost, and so on? But I repeat, this is not our business, but the fact that our business is what we discussed at the meeting now. Rare earth metals are very important components, very important resources for modern sectors of the economy. And we are doing little in this direction so far. We should to do more. And the meaning of today's meeting is aimed at concentrating administrative resources at the first stage to work in this direction. By the way, we were ready to offer our American partners and the company if they showed interest in working together. We certainly have an order of magnitude. I want to emphasize this. An order of magnitude, more resources of this kind than Ukraine. Russia is one of the undisputed leaders in reserves of these rare earth metals. We have them in the north, in Murmansk, in the Caucasus, in Kabada, in Bulgaria, in the Far East, in the Irkutsk region, in Yakutia, and TVA. This is enough. Capital, investments, projects, capital. We would be happy to work together with any foreign partners, including the American ones, by the way. As for the new territories, the same thing applies. We are ready to attract foreign partners and the so-called historical territories that have returned to the Russian Federation. There are also certain reserves there. We're ready to work with our partners, including the American ones, in the new ones. Regions too. Yes, of course. These days we generally see a flurry of statements, discussions and all. Discussing Trump, why is he so harsh in saying that Zelensky should go to the elections, that he has a rating of 4%? Europeans are very critical of Trump for all these statements and, in general, opinions are already being voiced that the current approach of the US president is rather playing into Russia's hands. What do you think is really so? I think that this is absolutely not, so I have my own point of view. It is the opposite of the one that you have now outlived. The fact is that the current head of the Kyiv regime is becoming a toxic figure for the armed forces of Ukraine, because he gives ridiculous orders, are dictated not by military considerations, but by political considerations, while it is unclear what they are based on. And this leads to unjustified large losses, if not to say very large or catastrophic losses for the Ukrainian army. For it becomes toxic for society as a whole. And this is what today's Golosova says. In my opinion, finally, he has blindsided himself with the ban on negotiations with the Russian Federation under the peace treaty stopped these negotiations, and the case in the World Cup. The fact is that he is avoiding these negotiations. Why? Because it is late, and most likely will quickly lead to the need to lift martial law. And as soon as this happens, we must immediately go to the elections. Then there will be no reason not to hold elections. Because today, elections are not held in Ukraine. Under the pretext of the existence of martial law, if negotiations, then it is possible to quickly lift martial law. But we must immediately go to the elections, and here the current head of the regime has problems, because it does not matter how much he actually has. It does not matter how many percent he has, there are 4 or what. What is important is that his rating, according to our data, they are objective in nature, exactly 2 times less than that of his closest political potential rival. Mr. Zelensky, former commander of the armed forces of Ukraine, who was exiled to London. His rating is exactly twice as high, and if we add to this the possible support of this possible candidate from other political figures, including former prime ministers or former presidents, then there are no chances the current head of the regime to win in elections. There are absolutely none. They are equal to 0. But if of course something is grossly not rigged, well, and this is also bad for him, it will be completely noticeable. Therefore, he is a factor in the decomposition of both the army of society and the state, and the current President Trump probably understands this and is pushing him to the elections he wants. What to do, as it seems to me, wants to improve the situation, the political situation in Ukraine, to consolidate society, to create conditions for the survival of the Ukrainian state, and in general, this is not so much for the benefit of Russia. We still have